Hello, welcome to Outlook. I am Girdhar Jha, Senior Editor with Outlook. This week we have come out with a special Republic Day issue. It's a commemorative piece where we have discussed the idea of India, how the Republic has evolved in the last 70 years. We have with us Mr. Pranay Sharma, our Chief of Bureau, and Arshia Dhar, who has done a story on art and culture and dance for this issue. To begin with, Pranay, I would like to ask you, why this issue? Is it routine kind of commemorative issue every time we come up with? Is there anything special this year?
No, every year we come out, whenever there's a Republic Day special, to celebrate the Republic Day, we come out with a special issue. So this is not in that sense that this is for the first time that we are doing it, but every single time we try to say something or the other about the Republic which was not known or which is a very unique fact which has helped in the creation of the Republic or remains to be a key factor in that Republic. So that is what we focus on.
So we have so many great stories. It's a great package. We have the lead piece by Mahesh Rangarajan. He has talked about the challenges we as a Republic face at the 70th anniversary of the year. Tell us more about that.
Yes, what Mahesh has done, basically he has taken the forthcoming election which are going to come in May, the 2019 election, and the issues which are going to be thrown up, likely to be thrown up on that election, and the new regime which comes, the challenges that it faces, and therefore both for the new government, the new regime, and the Republic, the challenges. So he has merged them together and he has tried to tackle it that way. What is the challenge before the Republic in 2019? 2019 he mentions particularly because this is an election when we are going to have the new government, or whether the same government gets another term, that will be determined.
It's also a kind of stock taking of what we have achieved in the past 7 decades. I mean, what kind of challenges we have right now is different from the ones we had when we had started off in 1950. What kind of main challenges which India as a republic faces?
See, Mahesh's essay basically tries to focus on the question or the challenge that the Indian polity is going to face or has been facing in the last 3-4 years, because there is an attempt by a section which is going to change it, bring a different kind of a narrative which puts it in a much more narrower kind of a band, rather than what a number of other people who are comfortable with, the pluralistic nature of this country. So whether it remains or whether it is being fundamentally altered, this is a moot question which he raises, and therefore he puts that as the major challenge that the Republic is going to face this year.
This is interesting bouquet. We have stories on cinema, music, dance, food, fashion, art and architecture in this issue. Writing on dance, we have Arshia Dhar. She has written a very, very interesting article on how dance has evolved over the years. Tell us, Arshia, what your article is all about.
So that's essentially the one which kind of takes us through the cultural package that we've prepared for this issue. The premise of dance, especially the classical dances of India, is so important, and that's what we talk in detail in the article that I've worked on, is essentially because of the fact that we know that India has this whole range of classical dances, 8 to be precise, and there is a division, like an official division, which is made by our government after the Republic was set up in the 1950, after the Constitution was formed. There has been this division made between what a classical dance is and what folk dances are. So that division is really inherent to what the idea of India was when Nehru sort of took it upon himself to build the India that he envisioned. And it's deeply entrenched in those ideologies as to because we all know that society is not just about politics, or it's not just about, you know, certain institutions. It's also deeply entrenched in the culture, and it seeps in. The idea of the country seeps into all our art forms, and dance is really important because there was this one particular dance form, which is how we began the article, called Sadir. Sadir or Dasiyattam, which has evolved into Bharatanatyam today.
Okay.
But really no one knows about, not many people beyond the dance circles really know about the roots of this dance. And Sadir and Mahari, which is supposed to be the precursor of Odissi, these were practiced by the Devdasis, the temple dancers. You know, that entire institution has been completely wiped out when the activity of nation building was happening. So why that had to happen, and how the forms have changed through the years, the forms that we see today, how different they are from the original forms, that is extremely important to understand what the idea of India is really about, because it really conforms to one particular thought of India, which is very Sanskritized, in a, you know, very proper sort of a brand Bharat, like a lot of scholars have said in their on this issue. So that is what we explored through our through my essay, and of course there have been other pieces contributed by many well-known names like Shubha Mudgal.
Yeah, we have Shubha Mudgal's interview where she talks about folk music and classical music.
Yeah.
She also talks about that there is no need for revival. We all keep talking about the revival of interest in classical music.
Correct.
But she simply presses aside the idea that classical music has ever gone. So there is no need for revival as such. So while doing your story, did you also take into mind that factor, whether the new generation of people, they are aware of the past, the rich past of Indian dances, classical dances particularly?
Yes, of course. I mean, that becomes a very important thing because, I actually interacted with the only sole sort of descendant of the Devdasis, who is an 80-year-old lady who lives in a very tiny village called Viralimalai in Tamil Nadu.
Okay.
So she still continues to be probably one of the few links to that forgotten history which nobody really knows about. And in the interview that I conducted with Shubha Mudgal, she of course, like you mentioned, says that why should folk traditions be considered extinct, that they need a revival right now. That is one school of thought, of course, but this revival is in the context of the fact that it has to become more mainstream. I mean, it has probably always been there, like Ms. Mudgal also mentions, in her interview, that folk sounds and voices have always been, coming out through popular Hindi film music and all of that. So revival as such probably was never required, but it's probably gotten access to more mainstream platforms right now, very similar to Indian classical dances, where the past and the forms which have stayed behind in the past are kind of trying to make a comeback after decades or maybe a century or so.
We also have a very good article on cinema from pre-independence days by Ira Bhaskar. Another interesting package in this issue, we have a special package on Africa. It's India and Africa, have had long relations, ancient relations, but in recent times, Pranay, I would like to, there has been special thrust on Indo-African relations, and South African president is coming as chief guest for this republic. Tell us about the relationship between Africa and India.
Yeah, right. There has been a special focus on Africa. I mean, it started almost 1.5 decades back, but under this government there has been, much more enhanced, much more expanded kind of an engagement that we have with Africa. A small little, statistics will explain this better. We've had in the last 4.5 years 29 high-level visits, meaning starting at the president, vice president and prime minister's level to Africa, which is quite exhaustive in that sense.
Which has never been done before.
Which has not been done. I mean, not at this level. I mean, with so many back to back at times, and all of them going to different parts. Many of the countries which were not visited by at such a high political level. So that is one. The other is it's not a one-way traffic. There have been a lot of visits also from Africa to India in the last 4.5 years. We've had the summit in 2015 where 54 nations of Africa came here, they participated, and that was a unique thing. They are going to have this summit again in 2020, but in the intervening period what they have agreed to do is to not to leave the momentum, so a very intense kind of an engagement will keep up the momentum, and they're trying to look at various ways, and Africa is extremely important. You just mentioned that we are going to have President Ramaphosa as chief guest of the Republic Day celebrations, but a week before in Gujarat, when they were having the Vibrant Gujarat Summit, there was a particular special Africa Day which was also celebrated. And so, throughout the years or the years before, there is something or the other which is happening with Africa. I don't think this kind of engagement was there earlier. And we'd rather late than never, as they say, because Africa is extremely important, that continent. Often we have a tendency to look at it as a single entity, but it's a very varied, diverse kind of continent with 54 countries, so many cultures which are all in there, the languages which are spoken, ethnicity, everything. So, and that apart, it has a huge youth bulge. The average age of the Africans in comparison to the global age, which would be around 30, African age is below 20. Okay. It's 19.7.
So it must be the youngest continent.
Absolutely. Yeah. So these are the things we will have to see. And recently, last year, they agreed on a free trade agreement, a continental free trade agreement, which is a very big step. So if they can agree on these things, it's a huge market where we can, and it's a very, very mineral-rich continent.
Talking of market, I believe you have written, or it's there in the issue, that in the coming years, out of the 10 biggest economies, 5 will be the African.
Absolutely.
So that way, it's very important from the business point of view.
Very much so. India has had business trade links with Africa for quite some time, even centuries, from 19th century onwards. But now in the modern context, many of the 4th, 5th generation, they are there, they have had their links, and a lot of new big Indian companies who have made it good in pharmaceuticals or in IT. These are India's considered to be leaders in these areas. So they find a huge market there. But at the same time, see, in Africa, the problem has been a lot of countries, even in the past, they've gone there, they've tried to take away the minerals, the riches of Africa, without giving back much to Africa. I think, what India is very conscious of this, and a serious attempt is being made to correct this kind of a mistake of the past, what others have done. So take Africa along with it, and also develop Africa in a sense, both the human capital, make them the stakeholder in that progress.
So that's it. We have this latest issue, the invention of India. This is a Republic Day special of Outlook, which has already hit the stands today. So grab your copy now. Thank you very much.